With today's video, I have the opportunity to do a comparison between two knives, and they are the Burning Horizon Midtech and then the Burning Horizon Full Custom. So this knife came out of a collaboration between Sean Kendrick and David Mosier, and this custom, this beautiful knife here, this is on loan from my buddy Phil, aka Mapreek. So if you guys, I've mentioned him in quite a few other videos, feel free to go check him out. And then this is the Midtech, and this one was modified by Phil, aka Mapreek, and this was his knife initially, which is why he modified it. So anyways, let's get into the comparison here. So obviously what we're taking a look at is a Midtech knife, and the definition again of a Midtech is a knife that essentially was produced at a factory, but then the maker has his hands on it to a degree. And with this knife, it was essentially the quality control aspect, checking the detent, lockup, sharpening the blade, things of that nature. Whereas this full custom, you know, I'm not sure if they use smart technology. I'm assuming that there might be some application of CNC or water jet, but basically this thing is created from, you know, stocks of titanium and steel, and it's hand finished and it's hand done, and it's really on another level. So if you're looking for the short version, this knife right here, the custom, it is a grail. You should have seen the stupid look on my face when I got this package. I opened it up and I just kind of sat there just fawning at it in my hand. And then the Midtech, which is based off of the full custom here, is a pretty damn nice knife. And there's a huge price difference, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. So again, as a caveat, this one has been modified. Typically, if you buy it from the website, this will be a stonewashed blade. The logos, which you can possibly make out on there, there you go, are going to be a lot more prominent. The handle was stonewashed too. It didn't have any of this nice texturing. And then the titanium clip was the same color as the handles, again, a bronze stonewash. So those are the variations or the customizations that have been done to this knife to make it a little more in line with the custom, which has those aspects. So anyways, let's get into it. So if you're wondering, you know, essentially, is it worth it? You know, is the Midtech as good? I think it definitely is, especially when you consider the price points, but let's break it down kind of from the front. Let's start with the custom. This thing is absolutely spectacular. I mean, it's again, without question, a grail. So let's just talk about the blades for a second. So this is, you know, a hand ground blade, has a beautiful acid stone wash coloration. You've got the maker's mark right there. That's the Mosier mark, nice and prominent. Just beautifully refined. This nice kind of recurve with a drop point. I mean, it's beautiful swedge. Jimping on this knife is absolutely exceptional. It grips the thumb. It's not too sharp. It's just very, very well done. Here's the other side as well. Nice, consistent stone wash, acid etch there on the blade. Now when we come to this one, again, initially it's just kind of a stone washed finish, but again, it has the same nice swedge, has the nice recurved blade. I mean, they're essentially the same blade shape. I mean, you can't really see any difference there. I think they did a good job of reproducing. Now, if there's one hit against the Midtech, it is the fact that it lacks this wonderful jimping up here. In my review, if you look at my channel, I actually did a review of this knife already. But in the review, I said the ergonomics are really good. You don't need jimping on this knife. But once you have the custom in hand and you get to really feel the difference that wonderfully executed jimping has, it really becomes a must. It just adds a whole new level of control and comfort and interaction with the knife, essentially. So that's pretty much the only hit that I can level against this Midtech, is they should have added some degree of jimping here to match the custom, and that would have been greatly appreciated. But again, if you don't have the custom in hand, you don't know what you're missing. Now you do. Sorry if I ruined that for some of you. So blade is wonderfully executed. Let's take a look at the pivot here on the custom. It's nicely recessed into the blade, just a nice dark coloration. You know, this pivot, it's not I don't really think you'd call it a custom pivot. It's just kind of a Torx pivot. It's not flashy or crazy or unique, but it is recessed quite well. It goes with the overall design of the knife quite well, so really no qualms there as far as the pivot goes. On the Midtech, again, just a standard kind of flat Torx pivot. It's not recessed into the blade in the same way that the custom is. But again, I wouldn't really call it a hit or a pro in terms of the knife. It's there, it works well. I think it does not distract from the overall presentation, and it actually ties in with the screws well enough that it matches kind of a cohesive design language. So really no qualms with the pivot. Then let's take a look at the handles. Now this is really where the difference comes into play, I think, for me. This custom is it's absolutely wonderful to hold into the hand, and what that comes from is it comes from the hand, the attention to details. You can see it's nicely convexed here, and it really goes all the way through the handle. Whereas this one, it's just, and this is just a product of manufacturing versus hand making. It's essentially flat. So while this one conforms to the hand really well, and it just kind of slips in there, and it's an absolute joy. It's made for your hand. And speaking of which, these Mosher knives, these are absolutely ergonomic beasts. These things are wonderful. This one, it just kind of has a more flat feeling, it's less organic, it has a little less life to it. And that's really the big difference for me, is just essentially the curvature, the organic nature that a handmade knife versus a production knife can fill. I don't really know how well CNC could give it that same degree of contouring, that same degree of finish. I don't think it really can be achieved in a realistic price point, assuming that it can be programmed into the CNC machine. So, and then even if it did, there'd be little lines at different heights, and so you'd still have to go back and you'd still have to smooth it out on a belt. So again, I don't think that's possible with the CNCing, although I could be wrong. The texturing here, again, this was added. This is an aftermarket, but Phil did it to match the texturing here. There's a slight difference here in the patterning, but again, relatively the same. I don't really think it's a hit or a miss. The texturing is a nice contrast, and it's obviously a darker color here. So again, it just, it adds to the beauty of this knife, helps the blade tie into the handles a little bit more. And yeah, so that's really the differences between the handles. Again, ergonomic feel, organic nature of it all. The screws, they're blackened on this one, they're silver on this one, but again, that goes with the pivot here, goes with the pivot there. Let's flip it over. And then let's talk about the pocket clips. So again, this is going to be a huge difference between the two, but this is a nice 3D machined, or this is most likely hand. This is probably, this is a handmade pocket clip. And it has that same nice contouring that you find on the handle, very organic, very nice to interact with. Two blackened screws, and then the pocket clip, which I really like, is it follows the shape of the handle. And that's something that I've seen on quite a few custom knives, is they make a beautiful handle, and then the pocket clip just kind of seems thrown on there, and it doesn't fit with the design. Even if it is 3D machined, even if it is well done, I think he did a great job of really just matching this into the overall design. Whereas this one, again, to remain kind of in a decent price point, it's just a spring clip, it's titanium. It has good retention, it's a good clip, and I like that the placement here is essentially functioning as an over travel stop for the lock bar. And then that also happens here to a degree with this knife as well, as it functions as kind of as an over travel stop. So obviously a big difference between the pocket clips. I wish that this lanyard hole wasn't here, and that the pocket clip would have been placed in the same position as it is on this knife. But that's just a personal preference. There are going to be an equal number, even more people saying, I'm glad they have a lanyard hole because I really like lanyards, whereas I really have no interest in lanyards for the most part. So, again, slight difference between the two. Now, back spacers. Now, this uses a nice, I believe it's a G10 back spacer here. and it's, again, it just kind of blends in with the knife. It doesn't distract. It doesn't really add a lot to it. It flows well with the design. It's really nicely finished and matched here along the back. Really no problems with that at all. So very well done. Whereas the Midtech version here, this actually uses obviously these standoffs, and I didn't mention this in my review of this knife specifically, but these are actually quite nice standoffs, very beautifully machined. Typically you don't see these level of standoffs unless you're kind of looking at some of the aftermarket ones, so I think these are quite nice and they're quite well done. Makes it easier to clean, and it's probably, again, easier to assemble and manufacture and so forth than a partially enclosed backspacer is. So that's really not a hit or a miss against either, it's just a difference. Now the lock bars. Lock bar strength and disengagement. Now, taking a look at these two, this one right here, the Midtech, is actually a bit more contoured in terms of the lock bar relief cutout than the custom is, but the custom isn't any less isn't any more difficult to disengage by any means. So, you know, it's a nice touch though that they put on this Midtech, is that they added a little more relief cutout, so it's a little bit easier to get your thumb in there. Now the lock bar strength, the custom has quite a bit more lock bar strength than the Midtech does. This one, it just moves over ever so slightly, takes more thumb strength. But they both have actually really good lockup. They're both quite early. They're both rock solid. So again, this was actually, I didn't mention this, this was done by the Chad Nichols shop here in the USA. So this is a 100% USA made. This is number, I believe, 23 of 200. Take it off camera for a sec. Yeah, 23 of 200. And then this one is probably 1 of 10, maybe 12 at most. I don't know the exact number, but very limited quantities. Obviously this one's much more accessible. So anyway, so lock bar, this one has less lock bar strength. Again, great lockup, no stick, very well done. So that's the lock bar. Now flipping action, this is really where there's a big difference. So this uses IKBS, and then this uses a cage stainless steel ball bearing system, but this one is just, it's smoother. I wish I could describe how it's smoother, but it's just a little bit smoother, and then the detent strength is nicer on the custom. So let's take a look at the detent strength here. Pretty strong, pretty nice detent strength here. Has a more aggressive thud to it, and then that translates into smoother and better flipping action. So I know that you can't really feel the difference with me, but you could hear the difference a little bit. You'll just have to take my word for it. If you have one of these, just know that this is just a little bit better in every single way, except for the handles, in which case it's much nicer, much better. So anyways, that's the flipping action, detent strength. And I guess that's pretty much, for the most part, that's really everything we can really take a look at. But again, I mean, the difference for me is when I got this thing in hand, I just had this stupid grin on my face. My wife was trying to talk to me, and I just totally tuned her out and was just engrossed in the moment. And you know, I'm really grateful that I had the opportunity even to handle one of these. I mean, you know, the Mosier knives are done in very limited quantities. They're very beautifully done, great fighting style designs, very ergonomic. This one has absolutely superb action, lockup, detent strength. I mean, it really is, as I mentioned, I've used the word grail knives a few times, but it is without question a grail. And they're quite difficult to come by. So now let's talk about the price differential. So again, this knife is, you know, $400 new from the factory, and then if you send it off to have it modified, you could probably drop anywhere from another $50 to $100 into it. This one's been modified. I got it at the same price, so there's really not a price difference there. But let's just talk about the base models here. So again, this is $400. This one, I think Mosier's prices, table prices, are typically somewhere around the realm of about $800. So it's double the price. And is it worth it? Absolutely. If you can get a Mosier for $800, you are one lucky son of a bee. or you were on his list far enough back, or you know the right people, or I don't know how you do it. So $800, there's no question, all day, all night long. $1,200, absolutely. Now, in reality, these are probably going currently somewhere between $1,500 and $1,800, and that's a lot of money. And I personally can't really spend that kind of cash at this moment, but you know, I definitely can understand why someone would. Now, to the average collector, I think you're going to be more than happy with this Midtech iteration of the custom. I don't think you're going to feel left out at all. And if you do see a Mosier, if you do see a Burning Horizon, don't hold it, don't touch it. Just the little things are going to be like, oh, I wish, I wish, I wish. So really, it's, again, going back to just kind of the overall thing, the Midtech was wonderfully, wonderfully executed. And I think it's a great, not a replica, but a great version of this full custom here. So $400 all day long, 1,600, and that's at the low end. I mean, it might be closer to 800, might be closer to 2,000, but again, huge price disparities, but certainly something to be appreciated for both of them. Anyways, it probably not too short of time here. These will all be sold out, and again, they might go up in price on the secondary, but just know for kind of in its initial price point, I think it's a great value. And this one is just, oh, I'm going to use the term again, it's a grail knife. It's absolutely superb. It's perfect in every way. I wish I could find a flaw with it, but you know, there's actually, I don't want to find a flaw with it, but there are none whatsoever. So anyways, that was a look at the two. If you do have the Midtech, just know it's a great knife. You know, you're not missing out on much. And that's, I guess that's pretty much it. So comments, questions, if you have them. I don't know why you would. I think I've covered everything, but feel free to put them down below. And thanks so much for watching, and thanks again to Phil for letting me get my hands on this absolutely wonderful knife. And I have a few more from Phil coming that I'll be doing videos on, another custom, full-on custom, and then one that he heavily modified. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching.